Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Legion video. So today I'm going to be showing you the Marksmanship Hunter, which has just been enabled on the most recent build of the alpha. I'm going to do this video in a few stages. In the first stage, I'll go over the very basic rotation, then I'll take you through all of the talents, and after that I will talk about the artifact weapon. Due to a bug in the artifact quest, I cannot actually use the weapon itself, but I'm going to plow on ahead with this video because the artifact weapon doesn't really affect the gameplay that much. So Marksmanship is essentially a new spec from how it was in Warlords of Draenor, and it all works really around a new ability called Marked Shot, and the changes to Arcane Shot and Aimed Shot, and additionally how Hunter's Mark actually plays. So here's Arcane Shot. You can see it's got a 40-yard range, it does a bit of damage, it generates 5 focus, but if we take a look at our passives over here, Seek Vulnerabilities, targets hit by your Arcane Shot and Multi-Shot have a chance to be marked with a Hunter's Mark. Now you're probably thinking, what is the deal with Hunter's Mark? Well, let's read Marked Shot. 30 focus, rapidly fires a shot at up to 3 targets affected by Hunter's Mark, dealing a bunch of physical damage usable while moving. So basically, if Hunter's Mark is on a target, you can use Marked Shot, which leads us on to the next paragraph of their tooltip. Also exposes vulnerabilities in the target, snaring them by 15% and increasing aimed shot damage done to the target by 25%, lasts 10 seconds, stacks up to 3 times. So can you figure out what's going on here? Basically, you want to use Arcane Shot to generate focus and to get Hunter's Marks. You then want to blow those Hunter's Marks on Marked Shot, and once you've got 3 stacks of Marked Shot up, you want to be dumping all of your focus into Aimed Shot. And that is basically the spec in a nutshell. We've also got, say, Bursting Shot. 50 focus, does a small amount of damage, and it knocks back enemies. So let's run up to a target here, and we're just going to spam up Arcane Shot. There you go, you can see Hunter's Mark on the target, so I'm going to hit 3. And you will see on the target we've got Vulnerable, which means they take 15% more damage from aimed shots. I can now use another Marked Shot, which has extended the duration of Vulnerable. So basically, that is how this spec plays. You are cycling between these abilities, weaving them together. Personally, I really do not like how this plays. I just think it's really dull. It seems, sorry, a bit of a cough. It seems like it's got loads of choice. And, it's all about weaving and all of that stuff. But realistically, you're never going to drop off Vulnerable. You're never going to drop off that because of the way the procs work. Now, this is pretty much all dependent on RNG. Are you going to proc a Hunter's Mark off your Arcane Shot? Who the hell knows? Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't happen. Now, new buttons do get added in through the talents, as has been the norm with Hunters for quite a while. But none of them have a great interaction, and I suppose while they can bolt things on via the talents, the core mechanics, the core interplay between abilities, that really is something that has to be good at a fundamental level without talents, and right now, I don't think it's really like that. I mean, you think that there's going to be some gameplay or skill to stacking this up to 3 stacks, but in reality, you're just going to be burning all of your focus, then regenerating it, hitting Marked Shot whenever that appears. You maybe would think that perhaps you might want to delay a Marked Shot so you could squeeze in more aimed shots for your focus, but then you reach the stage where Hunter's Mark only has a certain duration, and getting one is down to RNG, and you absolutely don't want to be losing out on your vulnerable streak. So then, let's stop there, and I'll just go through the other abilities super quickly. We've got True Shot, instant 3-minute cooldown, increases haste by 40%, and the chance for targets to be marked by 100% for 15 seconds. So basically, when you use True Shot, you guarantee that you will get your Arcane Shots or Multi-Shots will mark the targets. So I'm actually just going to put Multi-Shot on my bar there. I realized I forgot that. If I was to True Shot and then, hit 4, now you can see everything's got a Hunter's Mark pretty much. So if I use this, it actually, you saw there, it shot those aimed shots off in a few different directions, which is pretty cool. So that's nice, and in AoE there will be some pretty interesting nifty skill going on there, but just for single target, which really does constitute most of a lot of boss fights, not totally sold. Anyhow, so Aimed Shot does a bunch of damage. Obviously it's more efficient when you've got higher stacks of vulnerability. Arcane Shot, you can just spam this as much as you want, generates 5 focus, does light damage. Aspect of the Cheetah, you click this, you run super quick for 3 seconds, and then 30% increased speed for 9 seconds. Aspect of the Turtle is basically just a rebranded deterrence. Does that, you take a lot less, well, you take no damage from some things. Basically, you deflect all attacks, 30% less damage, it's pretty much the same. Bursting Shot, that's your knockback, 30-second cooldown, 10-yard range, that's what that is. Concussive Shot, dazes the target, slowing movement by 50% for 6 seconds, nearly a 50-yard range, 5-second cooldown. Counter Shot, 24-second cooldown, interrupts spellcasting. Disengage, you leap backwards, pretty much the same. Exhilaration, instant 50% of your max health back. Feign Death, it's just the same. Same goes for Flare. Mark Shot's that new ability, which I went over. Misdirection's the same. Multi-Shot is pretty much the same, but the multi-shot really matters in that you can use it to spread loads of Hunter's Marks around the place. True Shot, which has been changed into a cooldown. Then we've got Bombardment. Your critical strikes with multi-shot cause your subsequent multi-shots to cost less focus and do more damage for 5 seconds. So that's similar enough to how things play now, just that there's more usage of multi-shot since it can give targets a Hunter's Mark. We've got Improved Focus, increases max focus by 20, Lone Wolf, which is now baseline, and then Seek Vulnerabilities, which is what I've already covered. Let's have a look at the talents. So first of all, we've got Black Arrow, and you'll see a few SV things like Black Arrow and Lock and Load have actually been baked into this. So 40 focus, 18-second recharge, 3 charges, it's a dot that does 14,000 damage over 26 seconds, and it stacks up to 3 times. Basically, you get that, you apply it, I'll just do it here, you apply it 3 times to a target, and then you're pretty much good. You just got that nice big, juicy rolling dot on your target, and you'll just keep that maintained throughout the fight. Moving on, we've got Steady Focus. Using Arcane Shot twice in a row increases your focus regeneration by 50% for 10 seconds. Because of the nature of Arcane Shot, this is always going to be active if you take it, so that's a little bit odd. Then we've got True Aim, so for every successive arcane marked or aimed shot used to attack the same target, those shots deal 2% more damage to the target, stacking up to 20 times, can only affect one target at a time. If you are single targeting, what this basically means is that after a short amount of time, you are going to be doing, you'll have 20 stacks of this, so 40% more damage from those main abilities, which, now that I think about it, does sound extremely high. There are some issues though. So this, the effect of this doesn't last a great deal of time. The duration of a full barrage pretty much means your True Aim buff is going to run out. Doesn't really feel that good in practice. Next, we go on to the movement tier. So Post Haste. Disengage also frees you from all movement and parrying effects and gives you a speed boost at the end. We've got Far Strider. Whenever your attacks crit, there is a chance that the cooldown of Disengage will be reduced by 10%. Suffice to say, you'll be critting a lot, so that means you'll be able to disengage a lot. We've got Dash. This is a passive that increases the duration of Aspect of the Cheetah by 3 seconds, so it will make you run at plus 30% speed for 12 seconds on top of the initial 3 at 90% speed. We move on to Piercing Shots. Your critical strikes with Arcane Shot, Marked Shot, and Aimed Shot cause the target to bleed for 30% of the initial damage over 8 seconds. That's really kind of boring though, because it's not interactive. We've got Exotic Munitions. This extremely exciting talent has made its way over from Warlords of Draenor. Yeah, it was boring then, it's still extremely boring now. I'm just going to unclog my action bar. I don't like it, yeah, but it is what it is. And then Broadside. Aimed Shot will also hit all vulnerable targets for 4,500 roughly physical damage every time that you do it. This means in an AoE situation, you'll be getting more utility out of your Aimed Shot, which of course is traditionally a single target ability. I have no idea why they've called it Broadside and given it a picture of a cannon though. Aimed Shot is, that doesn't make me think of a smoothbore cannon. Anyway, Binding Shot. Pretty much the same 45-second cooldown. Wervin Sting, you put the target to sleep for 30 seconds. If they take damage, they wake up. I think that's pretty much the same. Camouflage, you blend into the surroundings and you gain stealth for 1 minute. And when you're camouflaged, you heal 2% every 1 second. And then the first ranged attack that you deal while camouflaged will deal an extra 10% damage. Lovely. Camo, 2-minute cooldown, pretty much the same. It's baseline for SV. If you want it as a MM, you will have to talent it. So next we've got Light 'em Up. Targets affected by Flare take 10% extra damage from all of your attacks. That is quite an interesting little ability. If you look at Flare, you can see it's got a 1-minute cooldown. How long does it last for? Yeah, 20 seconds. So basically this is a really awkward to use 20-second cooldown, but I can see people enjoying it. Next, we've got Heightened Vulnerability. Your next marked shot applies 3 stacks of vulnerability to all marked targets. So that's got a 20-second cooldown, and it's instant. With the way the vulnerability works, though, this basically means it's instantly going to be driving a target up to full stacks of vulnerability. I guess if you're in a fight where there's loads of ads coming in, at a pretty constant rate, or if you're running around the world. Actually, yeah, if you're doing world content, this means that every 20 seconds you'll be able to do that, such that any time that you use aim shot, it'll be super high damage. So that actually sounds pretty good for leveling, or just any time where you've got new mobs coming in to be chugged. Next, Headshot. Yeah, 20 to 100 focus. I believe if you use it at 20 focus, that's when it's truly MLG and clutch for reasons that I will explain. So, a powerful shot. It does a small amount of physical damage to the target, and then loads of damage to all enemies between you and the target. In its actual usage, it does a very high amount of damage to your target, and it just hits anything in between. I don't know why a headshot named, spell, mechanic, whatever, is doing physical damage to things between you and it. But if I just drop combat here, you will see that this is a very strange ability. So, you would think normally that this would operate like, say, one of the classic executes, where the more resources you sink into it, the more damage that it does. Based on my testing, that is not how it's actually played out. This does just about the same amount of damage, no matter what. So if I click it here, it's just used 80 and it's done 2.3 million damage. Of course, numbers are really wonky. There's world server problems in the other zones, so that's why I'm over here on Kalimdor, which I just isn't having problems. I don't want to get into server implementation stuff. Anyway, that hit like 2-point-something million. Let's use it again, see what happens. And it's hit 4, like slightly more, but, it's all roughly in the same ballpark, and it's all been using roughly the same amount of mana. Not mana, focus. It's a weird ability, because if I use it now, I spend 80 focus, whereas if I were to, say, keep myself at a low amount of focus, what I'll find when I actually go and use it is that it'll do the same amount of damage. So, let's click it, and it's done roughly the same amount of damage. I mean, certainly, if it spent 80 focus and did 2.6 million damage versus spent 20 focus and did 2.1 million damage, like that's all within the margin of error. But basically what it tells you is you want to use this when you're at like 20 focus, something super low, which is why it is so dank MLG and clutch and all that stuff, and whatever. Boom headshot. I suppose I have to say that. I'm kind of obligated to at least some point. Hey, there's a deer. Oh, I didn't get to headshot the deer. That's actually really sad. There's a moth. Yeah, dead moth. Anyway. So it actually killed that other critter too. So headshot, its actual usage is that if you are sort of coming off a string of aim shots, you can kind of squeeze one of those in for hardly any focus. And it seems like the skill differentiator there is that if you're really good, you'll be able to use low-cost, highly efficient headshots as opposed to ones that cost 100 focus. It's a bit weird. Anyway, let's move on. A Murder of Crows, 30 focus, 1 minute cooldown, summons a flock of crows to attack the target for 15 seconds. That's basically Murder of Crows back again. I believe it's actually still in the game, but whatever, that's a new button for you to hit. But like with many of these things, where's the interaction with the core rotation, the core mechanics? These just feel like bolt-ons to a spec which, at its core, is dull and boring, which is really sad. Next up, Barrage, 60 focus. It's Barrage, it does its thing. You all know that from Warlords of Draenor. Here's the thing though, if you've got True Aim on, so if I turn on True Aim here, I'm just going to build up my stacks. You can see there, that target dummy is going to be taking progressively more damage. And that's got you see there, 2 seconds remaining. So each stack of that, will last for 2 seconds. So eventually, if I stop here for 2 seconds, 1, 2, and Yeah, there you go. The thing's gone. A barrage is a far longer cast. It's a 2.73 second cast. So it basically means these are completely incompatible, which is a little bit unfortunate. Anyway, I'll just activate Black Arrow again. So that's what's going on with Barrage. And then we've got Volley. You continuously fire a volley of ammo at a target area, causing 50 physical damage to enemies within 8 yards every second for 6 seconds. Now, I remember having great times as a Marksmanship hunter in the trash of ICC. If you were there as a MM hunter, you knew what that was like. It was very good, and, well, kind of it's a little bit different now, I suppose. It doesn't seem to be channeled, which is really kind of sad. You just kind of, you flick it on there, and that's kind of what's going on. Also costs 80 focus, which is really kind of expensive. But hey, it's back. And also, it lands directly on a target, I suppose, a bit like Starfall. I'm less interested in that. What I liked was, you just channeling on the area and pummeling down ammunition everywhere. I think that made for a cooler fantasy, though I do understand if having that cast time just didn't really fit into how they wanted some of the spec to play. Anyway, let's go back to Murder of Crows and look at our 100 talents. So, Dark Ranger. Your attacks have a chance to summon a dark minion, which will taunt enemies and attack your current target. So, let's do that. And we will just spam away until we actually get our dark minion to spawn. Hopefully it's like an RPPM thing, which will, like, kind of go off roughly off the gate here. And there we go, a dark minion. It's kind of like a little ghost dog person. I guess that makes some sense because this... Oh, it's gone. Maybe it's just... yeah, I think I dropped combat. Anyway, that makes sense because this is basically... It's all based in Sylvanas in terms of, moveset. Next, we've got Kill Flip, which is cute, but completely cocking useless. For 8 seconds after disengaging, you do 50% more damage. Look, it's a cool idea, and, in my head, it's a bit like some of the talents that Demon Hunters have got, where you use their mobility and it gives you a damage increase. But there's times when you don't want to use your mobility. Now, we don't have, like, this kind of, it gets in my head. I don't particularly like it. There will be times when this will just be awkward to use, to maintain good DPS. You will be disengaging all the time. Maybe you'll be taking Kill Flip in combination with, what was it, Farstrider? Yeah, you'll be having the two of these. So what, maybe every 10 seconds or whatever? Maybe less than that. You're just hopping around the place, disengaging everywhere. That doesn't seem like a Marksmanship hunter to me. This is supposed to be about class fantasy. And maybe they're trying to make it more like Sylvanas rather than being an actual, marksman. I don't particularly like that, to be honest with you. And also, that does bring me on to the point that the current sniper training doesn't exist anymore. I liked sniper training. I thought it was thematic. And, with anything which is a full-on spec redesign, there will be those of us who enjoy the new spec redesign and those of us who do not. Right now, I'm firmly in the do not camp, which makes me sad because, well, I main a hunter and I don't want to have to not main a hunter. Anyway, lock and load. Your range attacks have a 5%, or your range auto attacks have a 5% chance to trigger lock and load, which causes your next 2 aim shots to cost no focus and be instant. So let's tie all of this stuff together. I'll just make sure my talents are roughly what I want it to be for this testing. This sounds roughly about right. Okay, so just for the sake of getting through this artifact weapon quickly, I'm here on the artifact weapon calculator on MMO Champion, which has been updated to the latest build because you can't actually get it in-game because the quest is bugged. So then, its actual ability is Wind Burst, 3-second cast, 45-second cooldown. Focus the power of wind through your bow, dealing 500% weapon damage to the target, and it leaves behind a trail of wind which increases the speed of any ally in the trail by 50%. I assume that's while they're in the trail. So if you're to use this on the pull of a fight, maybe your allies in melee could get in faster or something, assuming they're not charging or whatever. And then we move on to Whispers of the Past. So while True Shot is active, which is your main DPS cooldown, wind arrows stream out of your bow every 1.5 seconds and whack any target with Hunter's Mark. So that makes Hunter's Mark more important. We've got Call of the Hunter. Marked Shot has a chance to summon a regiment of fallen hunters to rain arrows down upon your foes. And finally, Bullseye. Basically special attacks against the target below 20% health. grant 3% crit for 6 seconds, and that effect will stack. Nothing that is super, just really super, it doesn't really change how you play the spec, if I'm honest. It's just some passive things, which, they're nice because they happen, but I don't think they're fundamentally going to change how you play the spec. And we will do some gameplay, so let's just, cock about until we actually get some vulnerability done. There we go. Now our target's vulnerable. Now we've got 2 stacks. And now we've got 3 stacks. Oh, I forgot to put on Murder of Crows. How silly of me. And now we've got 3 stacks. You see, here's the thing that you'll notice. You never really run out of having 3 stacks of that. Which, it kind of defeats this mechanic. Because this mechanic completely relies on the idea of, this kind of window of your target being vulnerable really mattering, but your target's always got full stacks of being vulnerable, because you're always going to be able to refresh it at full stacks before it drops. Now, there are some cool things. So, for an example, right there, a lock and load procced while I was at 3 stacks. That was lovely, but I'm always at 3 stacks, so is that really something that's special? The answer is no, it's not something that's special. And what this means is that by the time you actually get to the second-to-second gameplay of this spec, it's just you hit Mark Shot whenever it lights up, and then you keep all the other stuff off cooldown and don't spend your, you're just trying to not spend your focus like a total silly person. So this has got me in a little bit of a sad mood. Oh, I forgot, I wasn't using headshot there. How silly of me. Always need to be headshotting. But yeah, you want to use headshot ideally when you're at a low amount of focus. So that's how this spec plays. It's a very strange spec in my estimation. There you go, I just used a really effective headshot there. It's the sort of thing you kind of slip it in between your other abilities when you're at low focus. And I think that effect actually does feel pretty good in that it's as if you're burning off your excess focus. So that's cool. But otherwise, this just doesn't have that many redeeming qualities for me. And I say this as somebody who has mained a hunter in a raiding capacity since Wrath of the Lich King. There's some changes to the hunter that I've enjoyed. There's others that I maybe haven't enjoyed as much, but the gameplay of this just sounds like a real step backwards. To give you some examples, for an example, when you get your, oh wow, it's actually escaped my head. The thing which gives you cheap arcane shots, right? Whenever you get that on live, like getting all that stuff lining up, that feels far more exciting than what this gameplay is giving me currently. Because here, there's never really a high point other than the kill shot. Or not the kill shot, the lock and load. But the lock and load doesn't feel particularly interactive in comparison to what was going on with the previous stuff in Warlords. So honestly, this just seems like they've tried to, you could almost say, homogenize a whole bunch of two ranged hunter specs together. And it's really came out as something with no clear identity. This doesn't feel like I'm a marksman. This, I could be any other class. There's nothing super huntery here. Whereas maybe because I'm a marksman, I'm planted on the ground. And, that's my gameplay, is about, stutter stepping and some of that cool thematic stuff from, other times in the game. I wish stutter stepping was maybe a skill again at a higher level for this, for the gameplay of this hunter. Overall, it doesn't feel fun, and that's my feedback to them, and, this isn't me trying to shit in Blizzard. I want this to be a really fun spec. I absolutely have a horse in this race in that I want this to be very fun to play, and I just ain't feeling that right now. So, if you're on the alpha, especially if you main a hunter, please let me know what you think down in the comments. Really, really interested to hear what other people have to say. This just, kind of didn't work for me. Kind of fell a bit flat, but it is alpha. What does that mean? It means it can change, it means it can improve, and the entire reason behind giving feedback, even if it's super harsh, is that so that happens. Or even, if Blizzard disagree with me, maybe, everyone can pick something useful or relevant out of it. That's how feedback goes. You don't have to do or act on all of it, but you can at least sort of take it into consideration and help it to inform things. So there you go, a little bit of a savagery sort of a spec on my part. I think between this and the Demon Hunter, the Demon Hunter is still less fun to play in Vengeance, but there are some real stars. I really enjoy Windwalker. SV's pretty cool in comparison to this, though I do need to check out the new changes. So there's some good. Actually, there's loads of good. There's far more good than bad when it comes to the classes, as far as from what I've played. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video. Sorry it's a bit of a downer, and I will see you next time.